You may have clicked this video to find out why the US government wants to ban TikTok. In this video, I'll go through some more in-depth about the politics and the purpose behind the TikTok ban, and hopefully it will increase your knowledge at the end of this video. To understand the TikTok ban, we need to understand why the US government would interfere the markets in regards to foreign competitors. So the US government would only step in only under considerations to eliminate the competitors for American companies and remain dominant in major markets. TikTok isn't the first one when it comes to the US government backing up a US company to destroy another foreign competitor. Back in 2014, the acquisition of Alstom Corporation by the US company General Electric was astonishing. The French Alstom Corporation was a multinational company engaging in rail transportation and specializing in advanced technologies in electric engineering and equipment. And it was no doubt that the company was a lead giant in the market. According to the news back then, the acquisition was possible because Alstom ran into a financial crisis due to the US prosecution. But the truth is that it was not the case. According to French businessman Frédéric Pierucci, a former executive of Alstom Corporation, reviewed that the whole story in his book, American Trap. The acquisition was described as predatory and injustice as planned by Pierucci. Alstom was in the competition with General Electric since 2002, but General Electric was in no match to Alstom in major projects. In fact, it lost bidding to Alstom in countries such as Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, and Egypt, which accumulated over $4 billion worth of projects. In April of 2013, Pierucci was on his business flight to New York, and when he arrived to John F. Kennedy International Airport, he was quickly taken by the United States Department of Justice for suspecting Alstom had an illegal transaction in Indonesia. But wait a second, what does that have to do with the United States? Well, under the US long-arm jurisdiction, any illegal transaction using US dollar or sending an email via an American server relating to any illegal activities were against the US law, and that gives the US government the rights to investigate and punish and arrest the foreign criminals. The US charged Alstom for bribery of Indonesian officials, but its target wasn't just to punish its unlawful actions. It wanted more. According to Pierucci, he and other 3 executives of Alstom were arrested and imprisoned by the US officials. They were forced to agree to cooperate with the US government to find as many evidence of Alstom's illegal activities beyond the Indonesian case in exchange for their freedom. Otherwise, they will be imprisoned for 15 to 19 years. With Pierucci and others defected, the US government obtained evidence including a 49-hour recording between other Alstom executives about the bribery of 75 million USD relating to the biddings on Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Indonesia. Then the US declared that it would fine and prosecute Alstom despite stating how much the fine would be. But at the time, Alstom was already in a tight financial situation and they had no idea what to do with the upcoming prosecution and with 4 of its executives getting arrested. General Electric saw it is the time to step in, and it offered 13 billion USD to purchase Alstom's international business in power and grid divisions, which was the core of Alstom's and the leading tech department across the globe. The German company Siemens stepped into the bidding too with an offer of 16 billion USD. The French government later then backed up the Siemens by stating that it was more favored in supporting the acquisition by an European company rather than by an American company. Siemens soon later increased the bidding to 20 billion USD. The US government wasn't really involved during the initial bidding, and it has stopped arresting more Alstom executives ever since the General Electric stepped in. But as soon as the French government stepped in, Just a few days later, the U.S. Department of Justice stated a controversial fine of $772 million in USD under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, or also known as the FCPA. And there was just another arrest of Alstom's executive on U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, with 5 hostages and huge corporate fine, Alstom stopped to resist and it was forced to accept a $17 billion deal from General Electric. France couldn't do anything to stop the deal because the prosecution was viable under the US law. But Alstom's case later became the motivation of the invention of Instex, SPV, later in 2019 to prevent US jurisdictions investigating transactions on European companies. Alstom was more than just a recent case which the US uses foreign law as both an economic and political instrument to punish competitors. It was not the last two. Since 2000, numerous of similar predatory investigations initiated by the US government on foreign companies has never ended. And out of the 29 companies that were fined by the FCPA, 15 companies were Europeans and only 6 were Americans. The long-arm jurisdiction in the FCPA further weaponized the American dollar that pretty much any major companies in the world are under supervision under the US government and can be prosecuted by it easily. It kind of sucks for American and Western allies in Europe because of how heavily the global markets relies on US dollars to maintain a balance and how much they rely on using it for a daily transaction ever since the end of the Second World War. Everything the US does all falls within the US law. And that also gives the US companies special privileges because any investigation on them would have to have the cooperation with the US government. And reversely, the US government can do the same without even considering foreign laws and cooperations from any other foreign governments. Now, with the focus on China, the US government has done the same to interrupt the markets. TikTok was not the first among the Chinese firms to be investigated. Most recent cases are included Chinese heavy equipment maker Sany Group back in 2012, and the Huawei case that began with the arrest of Huawei CFO Meng on December 1st, 2018. Now with TikTok that is said to be acquired either by Microsoft, any other American company, or it will be banned completely. Every case we have just mentioned has commonly shared in the circumstance in which a foreign company is pressured under US political force. But in practical terms, this is very reasonable. Like any country would favor their domestic companies and impose laws that would benefit them the most, either one way or the other. And just like the EU would impose tariffs on goods exported by countries that are not part of the Euro organization, and China restricting foreign tech giants unless they follow certain Chinese political agendas. Except the US government was more extreme in terms of the extent how it interferes with the markets. It is more forceful and more predatory in practice. Especially TikTok has defeated its competitors, including tech giants like the Facebook, who feared that TikTok would take over the American market, which the US government is very enthusiastically about to prevent this from happening. Now, that explains Trump's action, which is more fitting to the US interest in the past. So he's imposing the tariffs on China, breaking up with Euro to impose new trade deals, and the rewriting of a NAFTA agreement with Canada and Mexico. All of these actions relate to the art of protectionism and meant to secure and create more jobs by destroying the old ones. TikTok ban wasn't just a Trump thing, but rather it was fit under the US economic war strategy and pattern that have already existed more than 2 decades ago. Even if we have another president, the US-China rivalry and economic war would still continue on. And don't forget that the controversial Alstom case happened during our beloved Obama's second term. But for Trump, this systematic foreign violence best fits to his personality and characteristics. and he just made it clear, and it was his job to maintain this iconic image of himself too. Now he wants to impose more pressure on Chinese firms. It's just a signal to attract voters that he is the one who will defeat China. But everything regarding to China would be the same anyway, because strategically, US would always and never stop competing with China. But what the difference is that Trump is showing his attitude and how enthusiastic he is about it, because that's what he promised for his first term and what he would be promising for the upcoming election. And at the end, the TikTok ban is just another form of American way of handling major foreign competitor. And Trump is trying to win votes for things he and otherwise possible presidents would do anyways. And thank you for watching. If you like this video, please click the like and sub button, and I'll see you in the next one.